Stan Jabalisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1, GV Whiskey 1 Good Vibrations. I want to put in a plug for an old line of radios, and by old I mean sort of in past eras, years gone by, eons gone by, but well-known radios called Heathkit, ham radio line called Heathkit. In particular, they had an HF line of a receiver and a transmitter. And I don't recall if they had a linear amplifier with it or not, but they had various other accessories during that time. When I had a best friend in high school in the early 1970s, and his family lived about 4 blocks away from me in Rochester, Minnesota, and they used to invite me over for supper quite frequently, and they had built a Heathkit line. I believe it was SB 101, etc., something like that. They looked a lot like the Collins S-line radios, except they were green, and you had to put them together from a kit. And my best friend and his dad together assembled this entire line from kits, and they were beautiful radios. The Heathkit HF line of radios at that time, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10 meters were the HF bands that ham radio operators were allotted to use. And at that time, as I recall, you only had to get a general class license to have all amateur privileges until they introduced incentive licensing and all these new classes, advanced and extra, and it's morphed several times since then until what we have today. Now, the radios back then were much simpler to operate than they are today. You didn't have to be a computer programmer in order to figure out how to operate your radio. They were a lot more rugged because they were all tube radios. If you had a lightning storm within 100 miles, you didn't have to worry about some semiconductor chip getting fried because of the electromagnetic pulse. It was much less likely. It took a much more severe storm much closer by in order to wreak any damage on that kind of equipment. More reliable, a lot less features. Certainly a lot less features. Some of the radios you see now today would intimidate an airline pilot. They're so complicated to me in my old age. But I was looking at old-time radios like Hallicrafters, Heathkit, Collins, Heathkit, radios like that. Even the old Yaesu radio, they had one called the FT 101, Foxtrot Tango 101. All those sorts of old radios. The Drake 4 line, I mustn't forget that. I had those radios, the R4A and the T4X. And I just recall with fondness the Heathkit radios because of suppers over at my friend's house, followed by nights of operating DX. They had a tri-bander Yagi at 50 feet. Tri-bander meaning 20, 15, and 10 meters trap, 3-element Yagi antenna. And they also had some kind of a trap dipole arrangement for 80 through 10 meters strung up amongst the trees behind their house. Between that and competitive swimming, between ham radio and competitive swimming, my Drake 4 line and their Heathkit line of radios and their beautiful operating table and position We had a blast, my best friend and I, with the Heathkit radios. For those of you who remember, let them remember. May you remember. For those of you too young to remember, you won't remember, and pity you. Stan Gibilisco signing off saying 73, which means best regards, and so long, which, in my native fist, on any radio, anytime, always translates to da-da-da-da-da-da.